All right, we're doing it. We're live. Episode 1. Welcome to the show. I'm Adam. He's Adam. We're going to talk about shooting stuff. We're Adam. We tried to come up with a super clever name based off of the two Adams. Everything that we thought of was terrible. And so we're going to call it something different. But topic number 1 today here, we're going to start off with we're both coming off of, I would say, sustained time off. I took myself a bit of a trip. You had yourself a bit of a crash. When was that crash about the same time I started my trip? So I started March of last year. Yeah. So how long did you end up taking off as a result of that?
I broke my leg Memorial Day weekend 2023.
Okay. Yeah. So I left on my trip. For those who don't know me, my wife and I both quit our jobs in March of 23 and spent 15 months on the road living in a van, rock climbing and stuff. So you broke your leg pretty darn close to about the same time that I left on the trip. How long was your break?
It was 18 weeks on the couch. Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Nice. It's a nice couch
and
time.
Then still not like full weight bearing. My goal was to shoot handgun nationals relatively normally that fall, and that was September, October, before I actually legit shot a match.
Okay, so you were into most of the way into the fall then.
Yes. Yep.
And did you do any sitting on the couch, dry fire, anything like that, or was it just time away from the gun?
Oh heck yeah. Oh yeah.
So you didn't have nearly the break that I had.
So actually it was kind of a funny story. Because I'm sitting on the couch, right, doing whatever, and I'm intimately familiar with my entire living room and what I can see from the windows and all that stuff. And so I wanted a gun to dry fire with, which at that time the one I wanted was in the basement. And so my first adventure down the stairs on crutches while my girlfriend was not home. My girlfriend is also a nurse, by the way, a nurse practitioner. So this drives her absolutely batty when she gets home and finds this. But my first adventure down the stairs with my crutches was to get a gun so I could dry fire on the couch to mess around while I was laid up.
I think that will tell most people everything they need to know about you. I think that really drives the point home.
Yep.
That's solid. Okay. So you were back to drive. So do you, in the off season, we're kind of getting into that time of year where both of us live in reasonably cold places. Shooting sort of stops becoming a thing for most during the winter. Do you take a real break, or do you just sort of ebb and flow a little bit?
I would not say that I take a break. I say that it's I have seasons. So, the summer is definitely a 3-gun season, while the major matches are going on, kind of spring to fall when those matches are going on. And then in the winter here, I kind of call it indoor season. So all of our stuff goes indoor ranges. That's pretty much predominantly pistol. So I use that as a time to focus on pistol. And I also cross-train a bit. So, while I'm shooting modified in 3-gun, I tend to pick an iron-sighted division of some sort, and I work hard on doing something kind of completely different than I do in 3-gun to work on myself as a competitor. Kind of, as you try to adapt to different equipment, it kind of makes you aware of stuff that you kind of get used to with your normal stuff. So I try to focus on pistol stuff in the winter, and then kind of cross train on something else to kind of grow as a competitor to come out as a butterfly in the spring.
Solid. What's the longest period you've actually taken off of shooting since you became, I would say, a proficient shooter? Since you became kind of A class or better, what's the biggest break you've ever taken?
I I would say I'm pretty addicted to shooting, so I don't know that I would say I've taken a break other than my injury. I try to be participating in the sport kind of all the time. Since early I started in the industry, like the industry was the beginning of me, I'll say my enablers. So I've kind of been in a constant state of some level of participation, either at a minimum on the local level, the weekend and the weeknight stuff when I'm available. I would say it's pretty rarely that I would miss. So other than my injury was probably the longest and most relevant break. What about you?
Man, I mean, definitely the 15 months was the longest by a long shot, but pretty much every year, except for maybe this coming winter, I will take some real time off, because up until now I've really been focused on climbing, where shooting has always kind of been the other thing that I've done. And then now that, I just spent a year and a half climbing full time, like 5 days a week in the van, and just missed shooting. I think this year coming up will probably actually be the first year that I've ever focused primarily on shooting and then had climbing be like the other thing. Cause I'm kind of fucking burned out, honestly. We've been home for like 4 months and I haven't been rock climbing once since we got home. I'm just like, nope, I'm good. I kind of got my fill. I'm going to wait until I'm excited to do it again before I start doing it again, and not force it and make myself hate it. But I've always found that taking time away and doing different things like keeps the psyche high. Like I've never gotten to the point where I feel burned out on any specific thing. Like I've never gotten to the point where I don't want to shoot anymore, or I don't want to climb anymore, or I don't want to bike anymore, because I've always, taken like little chunks of time away and then, like come back afterwards. But definitely this trip that we just did is like by far the biggest break that I've ever taken from shooting. But I noticed something really interesting coming back. All of the things that you can see visually, I could do right away. Like the first match back, people watched me shoot and are like, dude, it looked like you never left. But visually, oh, yeah. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I could draw the same, I could reload the same, I could move the same, I could split the same, but visually I'm like, they kind of went towards the brown, but other than that, I couldn't tell you. So it was really interesting to see like what stuck and what didn't. And
so you would say your hard skills stuck and your mental visual skills faded, or vice versa?
Yeah, hard skills stuck, visual skills went away. And by hard skills stuck, I mean like 85-90%. After like 15 months off, like the draw looked the same. The grip wasn't quite as good when it got there, but everything was pretty close. It just needed a little fine tuning. But then tracking, where the dot was as I was shooting, transitions, bringing my eyes to an A zone and then bringing the dot to it. And then my sense of pace was jacked. Like while I was shooting, I had no sense of how fast or slow I was shooting. It was like everything felt either out of control, fast, or very slow. And then I would watch the video and I'm like, no, that looks normal. So it's like my internal clock was broken. Like I didn't have a sense of like, I'm halfway through a stage. Am I going fast or am I just laying up? Okay. And yeah, so it was really interesting. And I ended up shooting PCC for state here, and my pistol's been having all kinds of problems and I've been working through it. But right before the match, no way was I going to shoot that gun in that match. And so I was like, I'll just shoot a PCC. It's like our local major. I'm staffing it anyways, so that always does what it does to your score. And so I shot PCC in the match, and then afterwards I was watching my match footage, and it looked like, you ever have those dreams where you're like underwater and you're trying to run away, but everything, like, it looked like that. I was just like, dude, run, like, go, split harder, transition fat. Like, what are you do? Like it, I mean, I shot great points. I shot a lot of ace, but I shot the whole match very slowly. And while it was happening, I didn't have a sense of I'm going slow. And then afterwards I watched the video and I'm like, this is embarrassingly slow. Like it was interesting. It was very weird.
I would say that was similar to what I experienced coming back too. It was all footwork. Now I was relearning how to run.
Yeah, so you're relearning all footwork, not just shooting.
But it was very much like I could walk. Like I was unsupported. I wasn't limping. But I was definitely rebuilding strength. For context for folks, I broke my tibial plateau. Basically I dislocated my knee really hard and broke some stuff in the process. So I was basically had my leg straight for my it's my right leg. So my right leg was basically fused straight, and then I was in the process of breaking up scar tissue, re-strengthening it, getting back balance, and all that stuff. And going to that match, like I got cleared maybe a week or so ahead of time. They're like, yep, you could do it. You're no restrictions. And I was working towards it, but I do remember that it was, if not the first, it was one of the first times where I was like, I'm going to run as hard as I can. So like, from a start position, to, these are USPSA pistol stages. So, 10 feet max. It's like, I'm going hard at that position, whatever that was, the wall, the corner, whatever. I'm going 100%. And, if he dies, he dies. Like, if I, I'm going to go as hard as I can. And if I fall over, I fall over. And it was really like, it was like 70-30 whether I was going to get there or not. And it was kind of that, when you said that, like that underwater feeling, that's kind of what it was like I felt that disconnect between like what consciously was normal and what was happening, but it also was the first time where I was kind of breaking through a wall. I was like, oh no, I can run full speed and not fall on my face. And so it's like you got more comfortable with it too, kind of forcing into the unknown. But the first couple stages when I did that after my break, I was definitely like, I was definitely questioning if my legs were going to stay under me, at full speed.
So did you give her at the match? So you didn't run that hard before that match?
No. And
I'm pretty sure that any physical therapist would tell you that the first time to try to run super hard is with a loaded gun in your hand. So that's good.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so you ran as hard as you could for the first time at the match. Was that because you couldn't like find the motivation to give it full send before the match, or were you not planning on doing that and then you got there and you're like, I should go fucking try?
It was a timing issue for sure. I was cleared not long before, and I think it was also a bit of I didn't want to overexert and hurt myself ahead of time and not be able to go. And so it was kind of a baby steps thing. It was like, okay, I just need to run from here to there. I can do that. And I was like, well, I ran from here to there. I could bet I could go from there to here. That kind of thing. It's one of my favorite stories out of the whole thing. But like when I first met my physical therapist, anybody who's seen me in real life, I am not the epitome of physical fitness. So here I am, broken leg, crutches, going in there, post-surgery, had a spectacular break, was the term the doctors used, more than one doctor used. And she as these people do, they kind of come in, they're going through the motions. They see a bunch of people all the time, blah, blah, blah. And she has this program she's going to give me. And I looked her in the eye and I'm like, here's the deal. I am a professional athlete trying to return to my sport. I will do whatever you say. And I could just see it in her eyes. Like, whatever she was about to say, she threw in the garbage can. She like went back to some dusty drawer in the back of her head and like pulled out that file and was like, okay, well, if you're going to do it, here's the program. But so I did explain to her what I do, and I kind of danced around it first because I live in a pretty purple state, and that's a very blue city. So like, well, I do an agility sport. Oh, really? What kind? She's a physical therapist, all right. She probably grew up playing basketball or some shit, like, well, what is it? Well, it's like this. Yeah, but what do you do? Okay, I do a shooting. So she understood what it was, and I'm like, here's my goal, here's the date. Is this reasonable? Yes. And so coming up to that match, I was like, am I good? Yep. And basically it came down to, because I have hardware in my leg now, it comes down to, it probably will feel not right, but as long as the sensation doesn't bother you, there's nothing they told me there was nothing I could do to my leg that would hurt it other than like, re-inducing some other kind of injury. But they're like, by running, you're not going to induce an injury. It's just what you're comfortable doing. Yeah. And I think I'm kind of talking through, trying to remember. I think I maybe like got the green light for that like the week before or something like that. Like it was not much time before.
Gotcha. So you got your G card right before this happened.
The week before.
Is that? Yeah, I was gonna say it's like
actually
right before.
No, it was 3 days before. It was that Friday.
Okay. So then you have a really good sense of where you were at when it happened. How long did it take? So like right now, I think I'm back at about 95% maybe of where I started, and I've been shooting a couple days a week for 4 months. Like at least a match, if not a practice session a week, usually 2, and a shit ton of dry fire. And it's taken me basically 4 months to get from like, I look like I know what I'm doing, but I know I'm full of shit, to I'm actually know what I'm doing, and I know where everything's going, and I can do it as fast as I could. So what was that gap for you?
Shooting skills, I got another G card that winter. But agility skills, I feel like I was telling people I was like 95% that fall. And I felt like just in general, when people would ask me how my leg was, I would say like, 99%. I feel like I was saying that in about January. And then in that next spring, which I guess would have been this past spring, I would say my agility is as good as it ever was. I currently think I also have kind of a renewed interest in, I was really focused on my footwork before. Like it was something I actually wanted to get better at. Like I would actually dry fire like Captain Morgan style, getting used to like shooting on one foot. So it was something I was working on before, and when I watch videos of myself now, it is what bothers me is the movement. So it's something I'm actively working on getting better at right now. As far as like field course, stuff for sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say if you're handling guns and dry firing the entire time, then getting another G card right afterwards makes sense, because you're focusing on all of the classifier skills. Yeah. Anyways,
the classifier skills are not like field course movement skills.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're doing it inside on cement, so like you can't get as aggressive on some of that stuff anyway. So yeah, I mean, where you can really push on that stuff was when you go back outside and you can actually like wear some shoes that like bite into the ground and whatnot. So, it's not something I particularly worked on really hard at first anyway. I definitely kind of except for those particular matches that I shot that fall, those pistol matches. I had plenty of lead into it before I really tried to like shoot again this spring.
Gotcha. And so we got, I mean, who knows when we'll actually release this because we got a lot of stuff to do before we figure all this out. So this will probably come out after Nats, but we got PCSL 2-gun Nats in about a week and a half now. After that, do you have anything going on? Are you into messing around with other guns and giving the brain a relaxing little break season, or do you actually do anything where you're like really focused on performance during the off season?
After PACSL, I'm in classification mode. So I really, it's indoor USPSA season, and that's the time where I really buckle down and try to. I fell in love with the process along the way of classification goals, because it's very individual journey. And it lends itself well to our particular season here. So I would go into what I would say is classification season. So I'm at like 93 point frustratingly close to GM in limited 10. So I'm trying to tip that over the top, and then which I'm hoping to do here in like the next couple of weeks. And then I bought a revolver. So I went
circle stack division.
Yes, yeah, I'm going full circle stack, or at least really hard circle stack, and maybe a little bit of production too, because I match direct some of the matches in the winter here. So a lot of times, a weekend match you can shoot it Friday night and Saturday. So I sign up for the match twice. So I'll probably be dabbling in a couple iron-sighted divisions this winter, but I'm trying to do the iron-sighted division while my eyes are still good enough to do it, and I work for an optics company, so there's plenty of time to do optics stuff later. But I'm really focused on some of the iron-sighted divisions right now.
So are you trying to get like a G card in every division? Is that the long-term goal? Because initially you were like, I want to get my M card, so when I talk to groups of people, I have something to lean on to be like, I'm a master class shooter, even though I wasn't in CAG or anything.
Yep.
And that snowballed quite badly into multiple division grandmaster, and now you love shooting classifiers.
Right.
Like,
yep, and that's exactly right. It became important to me for my professional life, so that I could teach people, and they would somewhat, well, who are you to teach us about this, and so like, well, you either kind of need that resume, or a G card's another way to do it. And I think kind of the intoxicating part of it is once you have a sense for what it feels like, it's like, oh, that's all I have to do and repeat. Yeah, I kind of latched onto it. Initially, the one I was trying the hardest for was limited. I thought limited would be the easiest jump because I definitely have the most reps on a limited gun. And then we came out with a red dot product, so I switched into optics, and that was round about the time that limited optics came out too, so it was a good time to jump and try to do limited optics, and that was the one I caught. But then I kind of had it about 90% done in limited, so that was the next one I got. And then I consider myself I identify as a single stack shooter. Like that's where I really started. And so after I did it in limited optics and limited, I'm like, well, I'm not going to be happy until I get it in single stack. So I went really hard at it, getting it in single stack. And then it was kind of a matter of, well, now what? So, I thought, well, if you did it in limited, you can do it in limited 10. The revolver thing came about because the Western States Single Stack Championship, there is a I-Core, like an Outlaw I-Core match that runs like concurrent to the staff match ahead of it. So last year when I was scouting stages for a single stack championship, I was like, oh, these guys are shooting revolvers. That looks like kind of fun. Maybe I should get that, maybe I should get the gear so I could shoot that too. You made the trip, you get 2 matches. So that's really where that started from. And then, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Revolver is fundamentally completely different. Hard skills, like vision skills, are still the same. Competitive skills are still the same. The hard skills are fundamentally different. Like initiating a reload is a completely different move than it is in an auto pistol. So I'm not setting an expectation of being a GM with a revolver, but at the same time, like the level of competitiveness in revolver right now, I don't know if it's that hard. We're like getting GM and open right now is really hard because there's a lot of really good talent pushing the limits on it actively right now. I don't know, like when they come out with a new classifier or classifiers that aren't that old, how hard have people pushed the limit of human function in revolver? I just don't know how hard, how high the threshold is in revolver to how difficult it would be.
I'm curious if like they just dropped all the 24 series or the 23 series like I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention, but they basically had some classifiers that are like, oh, we messed up and these are impossible.
Yeah.
I wonder if in revolver that happened with like the 99 series because Jerry was shooting at that revolver at that time and like setting world records where like the older classifiers in revolver are actually harder than the newer classifiers.
Well, yeah. Or I mean, like, I don't know exactly when, but like when Jerry just set his new world record here last year, one of the things he said, one of the sound bites, is he hasn't shot revolver aggressively in I think he said at least 5 years, if not 7 or 10. And so just think about all the classifiers that have come out. Let's just say it's 10 years. Yeah. All right. So all the classifiers that have come out in the last 10 years, who has really been pushing in revolver? And not saying those people aren't good, but like how many of them are there and how hard are they pushing and how difficult is it to get? Because that's kind of what stands out to me about revolver. Is it kind of it's kind of a gun guy thing. Like it's a lot more intimate with the guns. Like it's more about brass and powder and moon clips and chamfering chambers and polishing and how many, whereas in the auto pistols now, I think the sport has become extremely athletic. All right, like agility, vision, split speed, all that stuff. So, how aggressive are the athletes in revolver competition right now in USPSA? I don't know. And how high is that bar set from what it was? Is it the same? How hard does one really have to push to be at quote unquote the limit of human function in the classifier kit system with revolvers? I personally don't know.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing about revolver. So I had we were talking before we started here, like I'm shooting coated lead bullets with tight group through a comped pistol right now, which anybody who knows anything knows that is a terrible idea, but I did it. And my gun finally decided to stop grouping or shooting anywhere near where you pointed it at the last local match here. And so I shot the rest of the match on borrowed gear. I just borrowed a different 2011 from somebody on every stage. And I almost shot the revolver guy's gear, but we didn't have enough belts to go around. And he was going immediately from this match to another match where there was a major. And I was like, I'm not going to fuck with your stuff.
Yeah, right.
And but it got me really excited because the thing about revolvers that I like is the exact same thing I really like about AKs. Any gun where just the manual of arms seems super overly complicated to do the most basic stuff, I really enjoy. Mm-hmm. Doing a fast reload on an AK, you feel like such a boss. Where on an AR, you're press the button, put a new mag in, and you're done. And if you pull that off on an AK, you just feel like a champ. I feel like a revolver reload must be exactly the same thing, where if you nail a fast revolver reload, you gotta be
there's
like,
nothing
dude,
better.
Did everybody just see that?
There's nothing better. Like, I mean, it's Full Metal Jacket, man. You go boom boom long time on the same stage. But like, what really stuck out to me about it, and like what kind of excites me the most about it right now, and like as a cross training component of it, like if you're out there wondering what are you talking about? So in Revolver, you have every pull is a double action pull. All right. And so the new experience in Revolver, everything else is the same aside from the obvious, but essentially you have to initiate the shot long before the shot actually happens. So on the mental side and the vision side, you kind of have to be comfortable with the train leaving the station before the sight picture is ready. And being in control of all that. And that's where, like, as a shooter, I feel like I can grow with a revolver, because you're because it's so foreign, you're very fixed in on that visual experience. It's happening so much slower, and it takes so much more trigger prep to let it all happen. I mean, you're starting to pull the trigger before the sights are on the target, never mind on the A zone. So like it's a very intimate experience, the whole thing, because it happens so slow. You feel every shot and you feel every split. And that's one of the first things that really jumped out to me, is like you get a lot more comfortable initiating the shot before the shot is actually going to happen, but still getting it to land where it's supposed to go.
Interesting. And you're shooting, you have a lot of reloads. Reloads are slow.
Yep.
The shooting is slower. You're shooting minor. So I'm imagining the hit factor on everything is real low.
Yep.
So you need to be drilling A's on pretty much everything, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, and no slop. I mean, I think the biggest thing, like, I think, I mean, you can still, because everyone else, shooting revolvers they have to shoot the same stuff. But where in single stack you have one or two extra shots sometimes to shoot around a problem. Like, you don't have a Barney round in a revolver. Like, you have 8 and that's it. Where in single stack you have 9 or 10. So there is no room for slop. And so if you push and they all land, you're a hero. And if you push but you need to do a completely another reload, then you're a 0 really fast. So like, we have a guy here, I would say he has master level hard skills, B class competition skills. His mental game needs work. So in the last match where I was at, or where I shot revolver against him, like I would have a stage and I had a really bad scored error. I think I had like we'll say it was, a Mike no shoot on a stage. It's like, oh man, I gave that stage to him. But like on some other stage, he threw 2 mics somewhere else. So like, it was very back and forth both ways. So like, if you push, it's very hero or 0, or you can play it safe, and it's kind of like the rest of the sport. But like, if you play it safe, you're going to be there in the middle somewhere, and you're kind of banking on other people to screw it up. But yep. There's plenty of room for hero, but there's also plenty of room for a big fat goose egg if you shank one of your shots.
Lovely. Well, we got let's see, we got nationals coming up, heading down to Vegas. I talked Josh Froelich the last time that him and I were on a podcast together. He promised me that the next time that we were together in the same place at the same match and there was climbing nearby, I could take him climbing. So I'm taking Josh Froelich climbing the Monday after the match. So I've got a good route picked out. I'm not going to sandbag him. We're going to make it a good time, but it's going to be awesome. But yeah, for anybody who hasn't ever shot one of Max's matches, so there is a huge difference between PCSL and PCSL that Max Leogrand has put on the ground. there's some, air quotes PCSL stuff local to me here that is, it's fine. But a match that Max puts on the ground is a sight to behold. So I'm pretty stoked about that. And I think, if I recall correctly, this will be the first time that you and I have ever actually shot against each other in the same division. Is that true? I don't think we've ever been in the same division before.
You track these things a lot closer than I do. But in hard as hell days, I think I was shooting.
Did you ever shoot TAC in hard as hell?
I was shooting limited.
Yeah, because you always shot limited, and then you shot to jump to open.
I jumped to open,
and I was always shooting TAC until.
And then you're like, nobody shoots TAC anymore, so you jumped to open right as I jumped to modified.
Yeah. Well, I also jumped to open because the eyes were going and I couldn't see pistol sights anymore, which was getting quite frustrating. But yeah, actually that's exactly correct, because I was giving you shit about the last hard as hell because I shot open and I was like, I'm finally going to get a shoot against AMAX. And then you shot modified because you just spent the entire year telling everybody to shoot modified. You felt like you better do what you've been telling everyone to do. But yeah, so we're both shooting against each other. I got my prediction. We'll see how it goes. But dude, I just looked through who was squatted, and there are 13 people at the match that I think could make the top 5. Like, competition division is fucking stacked. And that, there's a good chunk of pretty good shooters in practical as well. Like, making the box in either one is going to require a world-class effort.
Oh yeah.
But just breaking the top 10 in competition division is there's some freaking heat there. Yeah, it's spicy.
I think this might be the last time that I shoot both divisions too.
Yeah, I saw that. That looks extra.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a very clean, you're shooting competition on the staff days, right?
No, other way around.
Oh, you are going to cheat. Okay, fine then.
Because for those not familiar, so when Max was getting started in PCSL, one of the things he said is, hey, multiple time slots, half day format, you can shoot multiple entries, and I'm always down for that. Even though it's probably detrimental to my score. It is detrimental to my score. But as it's grown bigger, I just planned on doing it this year. And I think he was kind of like, oh, you still want to do that? So I think PCSL may have grown big enough now. I think enough people come out for it now. Before God and everyone, I can say that this is probably the last time I'm shooting multiple divisions at PCSL. It's probably going to be it's enough of a big boy match now that I'll only shoot it one time. But I'm going to try to shoot practical and competition. Max only lets you qualify, or he only lets it count for prizes and whatnot in one division. You have to claim which one it is, and he says that's the one you have to shoot first. So while I will have a legit competition score, it will not count for anything of substance other than on the Perf podcast bragging rights.
Well, I like that philosophy that
100%.
If you're going to shoot two, the one you shoot first is the one you count. And that's, because it is like anybody who says that shooting twice, yes, it is. There's way more shooting, way more time on the range and everything else, but it is if I could shoot every stage twice, I would be a way better shooter than I am.
It's
100%.
But in the course of an event, it is such a drain on you to you can't be peaking for 4 days. You just can't.
No.
Well, I mean you can, but not against people who are peaking for 2 days, right?
Yeah.
So for me, doing competition division my second day. All right. So when I step off on competition, I will have already have shot the whole match. I'll have been, outside, exposed to all the weather, all that stuff. And I will be going up against a fresh Kyle Litzy, a fresh AJ Anthony.
What, you don't think you're taking down Kyle and Varick, and you got those guys?
I mean, it's
what's
possible,
Kyle done
and
recently?
if I do, like, I want the trophy. They can have the prizes. I want the trophy, though.
I mean, what has Kyle done recently other than win a world championship in rifle? I mean,
I can't really think of anything.
You got him. Dude, you're about to become a revolver GM. All right, you should be able to wipe the floor with that guy.
And I will.
Awesome, good for you. I'm
just kidding, Kyle.
Yeah, so I'm shooting this one. No, Kyle's obviously going to murder both of us. Kyle frustrates the hell out of me because I like a lot of people. There's a lot of people in this sport that I think the problem with this sport, and I'm obviously being very facetious here, but there's not a lot of assholes. Like, Kyle will just murder you, and then is just like the nicest guy. So it's really hard to be
villains.
mad. Yeah, there's no villains, man. Like, everybody's too nice. Like,
we had
Kyle's
some
super nice, Brian's super nice, AJ Anthony's super nice. Like, they'll just wipe the floor with you and be like, "Oh, dude, you shot really good." And you're like, "Did you beat me by 10%? What the hell are you talking about?"
We need some like Travis Pastrana, Metal Militia, like dichotomy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know that Kyle has it in him to like play the heel. I don't think he can.
Yeah,
I don't think he can pull it off.
Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, almost Daniel Horner, just because Dan's so quiet, and he just like rolls out there like Darth Vader and crushes everybody and leaves. But he's about the closest we have to like a real villain, just because a lot of people had never really interacted with Dan before. He started putting out a lot of like social media stuff. But.
Yeah, and I think some of that stuff. I think there also needs to be more money in the sport before some of that stuff comes back. Like 3 Gun Nation days, like there were some legit like out for blood people,
yeah.
And so I think like those people there need to be stakes before those people come around. Where right now everybody it's kind of a family sport, or a community sport. So everybody ultimately at the end of the day we were more alike than we are different. But like I remember 3 Gun Nation days, like the Cobalt Kinetics guys were kind of villains. The Bushmaster guys were kind of I mean, Rob Tate was my friend, but like they were kind of like they were just kind of like there was a little bit of team tactics and a little bit of us versus them. And I think the sport, like I'm a big proponent of, I think our sport is as big as it's going to be until we can tell bigger and better stories about what happens at the match. And maybe this is the beginning of that. So
yeah, who knows? Well, we'll see. Well, the long-awaited Adam versus Adam battle is about to ensue. So the question is, I'm shooting staff match, which always hurts. You're shooting second shift after shooting the first time, which always hurts. Do you think one of us actually has a handicap going into this?
Man, I want to say it's pretty heads up.
Think it's pretty heads up. So there's no spread?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Man, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do a spread on.
All right. Heads up it is. We'll see.
We'll call it heads up.
All right. We'll figure out a solid bet for this and play for some stakes.
Yeah. I feel like you're the favorite, which is going to make it so much better when I throat stomp you.
Good luck, buddy. At least your leg's all healed up now.
Yeah, right?
So that'll be nice. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be awesome. I've been looking forward to this match the entire trip because I knew it was going to be pretty much the only major that I was going to be able to shoot this season where I felt like I knew what I was doing again. Because I shot a couple right when I got back. I shot Rocky Mountain. I think I was home for 2 weeks, like 15 months off, got home, brushed the dust off of all the guns, got guns back from people that I had loaned them out to. About half of my safe had been loaned out while I was gone. And then, yeah, like brushed them all off, a couple trips to the range, and then went and shot Rocky Mountain. And I was like, oh, it turns out you can't take a year and a half off and then show up at a major match and shoot like you know what you're doing. Like, which I was super, honestly, if I would have like shot that match and won, I think it would have really like let the air out of the balloon, and I would have been like, oh, this sport's not as hard as I thought it was. But and you know, and I still did get, like, I still finished on the box and stuff, but I got beat pretty bad by first place, and I was like, oh, you're right, this you can't just come off the couch and do well. Like, you actually have to be shooting really well to shoot against the talent that's out there right now, which made me very, very happy, because like the competition aspect of the sport to me is like kind of the entire point. So I have a competitive outlet in my life, so I don't go crazy in other places. So it's awesome to go to a match like this where I'm like, God, if you don't, if you phone it in, like, you're not even going to be in the top 10. Yeah. Like, it's like just not going to be a thing. So yeah, so shooting for somewhere, in the single digits is going to be nice.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're, I don't know exactly when we started, but I'd say this is about a reasonable length to start. So we will see you next time.